In his veins flows the blood of nobility, a dominant lion who chose his own glory and path in life, different from his ancestors. He learned to be the great leader, preserving his safety as much as possible, with his great courage and immense strength. Armed with determination that made him forget his past losses and the cowardice that once filled his heart, he gained an enormous morale boost that granted him the responsibility of protecting his pride with unmatched ferocity and vigor. So, let us embark today to discover the true story of Prince Oawa, highly beloved and widely famous in the wilds of South Africa, particularly in the Sabi Sand Reserve, filled with all kinds of fierce coalitions and dangers, led by hungry hyenas that fear nothing. With his strong lineage extending from the legendary Majingilane coalition, the destiny of Prince Oawa was greatness and immortality in the pages of the history of the strongest lions. He faced many hardships at an early age, from the disappearance of his mother and brother to the death of his father, which forced the prince to learn many harsh lessons of the wild that enabled him to become strong and resilient in facing dangers. As is the case in the African wilderness, there are many strategic points where local guides, biologists, and rangers monitor the animals of the region from the day they are born until their last day of life. They record their physiological, social, and health changes without interfering with the natural flow of wildlife, which is often harsh. Thus, the young Prince Oawa was discovered in February 2015 after careful observation of this remarkable cub, due to his strong origins descending from one of the powerful leaders of the Majingilane coalition. Although the Majingilane lionesses had many cubs, Oawa quickly stood out thanks to his strong build, which foretold to everyone that this cub would play an important and significant role in the reserve in the coming years. His exceptional qualities appeared in his strong encounters with his peers, like his fathers, who had not feared challenges in their youth. Coupled with intelligence and wisdom, Oawa avoided direct confrontations with stronger lions. He managed to preserve his majestic appearance and stunning aura without any scars worth mentioning, while most warrior lions bear deep injuries that mark their bodies as reminders of the conflicts, endurance, and blows suffered in defense of their territories, conquest of new lands, or even mating with females. Thus, Oawa became one of the most handsome young lions in the reserve, strong with his loud roar and unique presence, which earned him the admiration of the lionesses who would go hunting in an attempt to please him by offering him the best cuts of prey. This confirmed to photographers that this prince would soon take on the role of dominant lion of the pride. Nevertheless, life for lions in the wild is not easy even for the mightiest kings of the jungle due to the constant dangers, especially in areas abundant with prey and water, where competition for food is inevitable and even the fiercest and largest lions may face death. For Oawa, everything unfolded naturally. The lionesses admired him, took him hunting, and enhanced his skills and strength that the pride would need once the prince became king capable of defending his pride. Thanks to his sharp wit, he quickly learned the tactics of hunting, chasing, and fighting before mating with the lionesses and siring many cubs. Up to that time, there had been no confrontation that proved the resilience of this young lion. It was only a matter of time before he faced his first true test. Indeed, the moment came when Oawa noticed two nomadic males approaching his territory's borders. Everyone thought the prince would prove his courage by defending his pride and driving away the intruders. But the shocking surprise was that he fled with his pride, relocating them instead of fighting. Perhaps he did not feel strong enough to face two lions alone, so he chose to withdraw and prepare himself better for future battles. For this reason, Oawa took it upon himself to go hunting daily to train his body and jaws through intense chases, ambushes, and tearing the flesh of various prey. Yet misfortune seemed destined to follow this young lion. Once again, the opportunity for confrontation came when a coalition of 6 strong males reached his doorstep. Under the eyes of observers who had placed their hopes in the prince, everything went out of control. At first, Oawa appeared ready to challenge them, but at the last moment he retreated again, fleeing instead of sacrificing his life for his pride and boosting his status. From a distance, Ottawa witnessed the killing of his cubs, the takeover of the lionesses, and the submission of his brothers to the powerful coalition, except for one who fought and was injured in his leg. That brother tried to flee toward the prince, but the hyenas intercepted him, tearing his body apart as Ottawa stood and watched from afar, unable to help. Ottawa failed miserably to prove himself before his pride. After withdrawing, he climbed to the upper parts of the reserve where the terrain was higher and hid there for 6 months, drowning in shame and defeat after disappointing everyone who had expected him to become the awaited king. His hunting skills and his strong struggles against prey were not enough to make him a role model. He needed to redeem himself somehow, to prepare for the awaited battle, and to prove he deserved to be the ruler of his pride and territory. So, after descending again from the highlands, he faced for the first time a strong, dominant lion in a real fight that astonished all who watched. He defeated the powerful lion. After dethroning and ousting the previous lion, Ottawa took control of the Menini pride and became their leader. The lionesses, captivated by his beauty and muscular build, submitted to him without resistance and decided to mate with him, even though many of them already had cubs. After that battle, Ottawa proved to himself that he could overcome fear. Yet the pain of losing his offspring and pride before his eyes haunted him. This may have been the reason he did not kill the cubs of the dethroned lion. On the contrary, he preserved them, adopted them, and taught them how to hunt and protect the pride. He transformed his past failure into motivation and success by raising a new generation to behave as true kings. The patience of this new king toward the lionesses, whom he had to care for along with their cubs, enhanced his importance to the pride and made everyone loyal to him. Soon after, Ottawa challenged a nomadic lion and defeated him easily, chasing him far from his territory. This victory made him prouder, especially since the battle took place in front of his pride, as if he was telling them, "Whether these are my cubs or not, I will sacrifice my life for them if necessary." The king enjoyed his reign, and peaceful days surrounded the strong and brave Ottawa, with the lionesses and cubs relying on his presence for survival. Yet, as expected, circumstances always change, and the fateful day would come when the king would face his greatest challenge. Peace did not last long. In early 2021, 2 Birmingham lions set a well-planned ambush for Ottawa. The king was surprised and received bites and heavy blows during the bloody battle with the 2 fierce males. The injuries he suffered from this treacherous attack weakened his ability to fight. He could not resist much longer and was forced to surrender after receiving fatal blows that exhausted him. He was on the verge of death, suffering immense pain, which led the rangers to intervene to relieve his agony and end his life. After the death of Ottawa, the prince who became a king, many mourned his loss and eulogized him on social media, especially since he was in the prime of his youth and had enough time ahead to strengthen his position and become even more powerful and dominant. His departure was painful after he had managed, even if only for a short while, to restore his royal stature and reclaim some of the lost honor, immortalizing his story in the hearts and minds of people around the world as one of the strong lions that could have built their own glory and spread their royal bloodline throughout the reserve.
Many lions inherit the glory of their fathers, their strength, and their dominance. Some continue on the path laid out for them, while others choose to distance themselves, retreating and hiding away from the eyes of fame, photographers, and seekers of stories and legends. Among these legends lives one of the most ferocious lions today, with his terrifying appearance and violent style. A lion who inherited strength from the king of beasts, the famous lion Skakama, whose stories and heroics are sung in the Savuti area. He is the pirate Fakura, the ruling and dominant lion, the one-eyed prince of battles. Born in Savuti, specifically in the Kwai Pride in 2011, the pride that Skakama and his brother Torn Nose chose to leave to focus on their powerful pride in the Marsh Pride, we recount the story of this strong cub whose fame would later spread across the region. With a pride consisting of 9 members, including Satao, Fakura's mother, 4 male cubs, and 3 other females. This pride was named the North. Perhaps the scarcity of females in this pride was the reason Skakama abandoned it and moved towards the Southern Marsh Pride. Over the years of Fakura and his brother's upbringing, Satao and her sisters took care of them until they reached adulthood in 2014. When these sons' activities and love for exploration and discovery began, Fakura and his brother Trump eventually declared their dominance over the surrounding lands, reaching their father's land in the south. The latter did not like Fakura and Trump's rebellion and immediately worked to chase them back to their northern territory. It was early 2015 when Skakama and Torn Nose headed north to expel their sons. This was indeed accomplished, especially since they were at the peak of their strength and violence, and the young, inexperienced, and impulsive Fakura could not simply withstand his father. After their expulsion, the females continued to communicate with their sons, but Skakama and Torn Nose wanted them to leave the area before they posed a significant threat. Thus, the 5 males left the area and headed towards Mababe to escape their father's wrath and avoid injuries. Since then, no one knew where the 5 lions went. But after a year, Fakura and his brothers were seen fighting in the NG-19 area with 3 dominant males known as Lewis, Scarface, and Fandane. Fakura and his brothers came in an attempt to take over this area. Therefore, Fakura and his brothers challenged the dominant males at the time, managing to expel them and inflict fatal injuries, allowing them to control the place and seize its resources and females. Unfortunately, since taking responsibility, they did not reproduce any cubs from the pride of 8 lionesses known as the Sable Pride. This may be due to the vast area that needs constant protection, with many infiltrating males entering and exiting from different areas like Moremi Reserve, NG-18, and the North, those males coming to challenge these brothers and expel them from the place. In May 2022, a strong and wandering lion from the Moremi area crossed to challenge Fakura. This lion was almost twice the size of Fakura at the time, and his brothers were in the western part of the concession. The battle between these 2 lions began with simple skirmishes, but the immense competitiveness and ferocity of the lions had to show in the end. Thus, Fakura gradually withdrew without fighting or chasing the intruding lion, acting with great confidence and wisdom. He then returned to his brothers to inform them of the presence of the rebellious and intruding lion in their territory. His brothers responded to his call for help in chasing this lion, especially his brother Trump, who resembled Torn Nose in his love and attachment to Skakama. Indeed, that lion fled despite his size from the many attackers defending their territories, crossing the border and returning to where he was in the Moremi area. Fakura was a legendary lion, fearless despite his young age compared to the rest of his brothers who had taken him as a leader for many years. Perhaps some of his withdrawals and avoidance of losing battles were due to his wisdom and great intelligence. He was not reckless, but respected his strong opponents and worked to eliminate them in a smart way. In the same year, 5 male lions entered Fakura's territory from the NG-20 area, west of Tuludi, continuing to infiltrate and exit the area without encountering Fakura and his brothers due to the vastness of the place. But after a while, Fakura noticed the presence of intruders in his territory, encountering them one day with his brothers while they were conducting intensive patrols around the place, igniting a big and bloody battle. Fakura and his brothers were spotted by a guide in Tuludi, who photographed a large scar that affected Fakura's right eye. Fortunately, his brothers did not suffer any serious injuries. The guide followed the trail all the way to the border to see if he could find the intruding males, discovering that they were indeed severely injured and on their way to retreat and save themselves. Fakura and his brothers managed to retain their lands for another day. Throughout the days, Fakura and his brothers fight as if there is no tomorrow, especially after they had their own cubs, those offspring and genes that will naturally inherit their strength and wisdom for years to come. The number of these cubs in the Sable Pride reached 8 cubs. Thus, Fakura and his brothers know that if they lose the battle, they will lose their lands and their right to the place, and the cubs will not survive either. Life has negatively affected Fakura, especially with his new scar and the loss of his right eye, which earned him the title of the pirate. But all this did not affect his strength and ferocity. It only increased his awe and terrifying appearance that takes one's breath away. He is a true warrior, having won 3 battles alone in the past 2 months, especially after his brothers left him again and returned to the north. Both Skakama and Torn Nose have fathered many males, but this lion should take the title of the strongest male in Botswana, awaiting the coming days to bring many exciting stories for this strong and violent lion.
Amid the dangers of the African wilderness, it is unclear whether the Masai Mara people and its protectors intended to conceal a powerful pride of lions descended from the legendary lineage of the terrifying Notch lions. This pride was left to fend for itself, struggling to survive in the face of imminent death from all directions. At that time, the Notch coalition was striving to establish its kingdom and expand its territory, when one of the cubs was left behind with his siblings and some lionesses. He attempted to survive against a newly dominant lion who had taken advantage of the Notch coalition's distraction with expansion, breaching their borders and seizing control of the lionesses. Some cubs were killed, while others survived, including our adventurous young lion, Erles. This cub would later become the strongest among all the descendants of Notch. Today, our story reveals his charm and glory, and how the invading dominant lion saved his life, leaving behind his own remarkable mark in Africa's history. It was the beginning of 2011 in Kenya's Masai Mara Reserve, when the Notch coalition crossed to the other side of the reserve with its offspring, living in glory and spreading fear everywhere, dominating various prides of females along the way. The vast extent of their control was one of the reasons why the Notch coalition abandoned certain groups along their path. After mating with the lionesses, they spread their genes throughout the region, proving their strength and their right to rule over the vast kingdom. In the midst of this expansion, the pride where Erles and his siblings lived was abandoned. He was only a few months old, but his features and determination already hinted at his coming strength and great ambition to create his own legacy. That year, the Notch lion's insatiable thirst for power and dominance knew no bounds. Perhaps one reason they left behind Erles and his pride to other roaming lions was that they thought this group was weak. The Notch lions controlled as many as 11 different prides, which they returned to periodically. They always needed to keep rivals at bay. However, because the Notch coalition spent so much time away, intruding males believed these abandoned prides were leaderless. After miraculously surviving, Erles overcame all the obstacles he faced from his youth, preserving the honor of the strong legacy that ran in his blood. Rumors spread that his mother had hidden him for weeks to protect him before reintroducing him to the pride. This distracted the dominant lion. When Erles returned to the pride, the new king had calmed his rage and desire to kill the cubs upon his arrival. Instead, he spared the young cub, who continued to grow. Erles's body grew larger and stronger with time, resembling that of his new father figure, before the lionesses gave birth to new siblings. As the eldest cub, Erles protected the younger ones, being relied upon to defend the pride. But the great dangers of the wild did not spare him. His life was once again at risk in the near future, just when he thought he would grow up safely within his pride. Within a few more months, Erles reached maturity. Since he was not the son of the ruling male, he was at great risk of being challenged or even killed by the dominant king. But the determined young lion had a strong personality. He accompanied the lionesses during hunts and enjoyed showcasing his natural talent for bringing down large prey. He was a true leader, guiding his siblings and never allowing any of them to feed before him. For his age, Erles combined unique personal traits with extraordinary muscles. When wildlife rangers discovered him and observed his behavior, they began to think he might one day challenge the king of the pride, perhaps even dethrone him. But Erles still lacked experience in fighting. His hunting skills would not save him in a bloody battle against another massive lion. Since the two males coexisted in the area, the ruling lion made a fatal mistake that would later lead to his downfall. He allowed Erles to witness his battles whenever he defended the pride from invading lions. Erles carefully observed and learned every move, memorizing the combat strategies and identifying the king's weaknesses. These lessons would later become the perfect way to defeat him. The time for battle had not yet come. The lionesses entered estrus, and Erles had the hormones driving him to mate. But there was a major problem: the king. He would not allow Erles to approach the females, unwilling to share his throne, even though he had been friendly with the strong young lion. The first mating season passed, with the king driving Erles away each time he attempted to approach a lioness. But how long could this continue? Erles began showing his frustration and discontent. Although he respected the lion who raised him, he stayed calm as long as he could, refusing to leave or abandon the pride. Erles carefully planned every step. When the younger lionesses entered estrus shortly afterward, it was another chance for him to mate. However, the king continued to monitor his every move. One hot afternoon, under the blazing sun, the king fell into a deep sleep. Erles seized the opportunity and mated with one of the lionesses. When the king awoke and realized what the young lion had done, he exploded with rage and charged at Erles, who was fully prepared for the confrontation. This was their first clash. Cameras had been monitoring the pride for a long time, anticipating this dramatic event. When the king tried to exile Erles and drive him away to find another pride to rule, Erles firmly refused. The next day, under the weight of shared fury, a bloody, deadly battle broke out between them. The fight was truly epic. Both lions engaged in a brutal confrontation, fueled by the king's hatred for the rebellious young male. But the king did not know that Erles, terrifying and massive, descendant of the legendary Notch line, would be such a powerful rival. Erles, who had respected his king for a long time, only wanted a shared leadership to help them both survive. The fire of battle raged, strikes exchanged endlessly, with terrifying roars filling the vast savanna. Neither lion would retreat. Each wanted victory, dominance, and pride of place in the pride. The fight lasted for hours, until dawn broke and the ruling king grew weary. Erles astonished everyone with his resilience and combat skill despite his youth. He crowned himself the new king of the pride. At his coronation, the instincts of his ancestors surged within him. He slaughtered all the cubs of the previous ruler, and all the lionesses submitted to him. Within weeks, he fathered his own strong offspring in the pride. Erles, ruthless and relentless, remained forgotten by his father. Every battle he fought to defend his pride reflected the distant legacy of the Notch coalition. It was as though every move, feint, and strike carried the mark of Notch's power. He refined his skills daily, turning hunting into a passion and hobby, especially when targeting large prey. The lionesses accompanied their new ruler on hunts, where he displayed his immense talent in ambush and killing. Erles never crossed paths with the Notch lions, but the records kept by wildlife protectors noted that he was the most aggressive among all registered Notch lions up to that time. During one particularly difficult hunt, Erles witnessed a lioness being killed by an enraged buffalo. At that moment, a lion named Boxer Noose appeared, seeking revenge for his queen. Boxer Noose placed his trust in King Erles, who helped him bring down the murderous buffalo. From then on, the two lions formed a powerful alliance, ruling side by side, expanding their territories together. This was the kind of friendship Erles sought, one that gave him the support he needed to strengthen his dominance and enlarge his kingdom. Stability and peace settled upon the pride under the joint leadership of these two powerful allies. The last recorded sighting of Erles and Boxer Noose was in 2020, when the mighty pair, accompanied by their pride, ventured toward one of the borders of the Masai Mara in search of new lands to conquer. Erles had proven himself, far from his father, to be a true descendant of the Notch lions, the strongest among them. Sadly, no further records or sightings of King Erles and his ally Boxer Noose have been found. But surely, this is not the end of their story. Time will reveal what fate has in store for this terrifying lion and his future bloodline, which carries the legacy of blood and glory. The life journey of the Shaw's male, also known as the roller coaster male, who was born into the Castleton Pride in 1996 in the famous Sabi Sand Reserve, is one of the most fascinating stories in the world of lions. This coalition began with 6 members, destined for greatness, until a series of brutal attacks by rival lions reduced their number to only 2 between 2001 and 2006. Despite the challenges and the injuries they endured, their great ambition for expansion drove them to attack their powerful father's pride, the Sparta Pride. At that time, Sparta was ruled by 3 dominant males, Broken Nose, Scar Nose, and Max Sen. The roller coaster lions challenged them in an attempt to seize control of the pride. Their mission succeeded, and they began mating with the lionesses, spreading their genes in the land, as all lions do to ensure their lineage survives for generations to come. For years, this strong coalition roamed the reserve, spreading fear and anxiety among other lions. They achieved many accomplishments, taking over important areas and rival coalitions renowned throughout history for their power and dominance, such as the Salati Coalition. However, the story of the roller coaster lions also carried misfortune and tragedy. Over their years of wandering and expanding, they were constantly attacked. One of the lions suffered a fatal eye injury before eventually dying from its infection and complications. By 2006, only 2 lions remained from the coalition. They returned to the Sparta Pride and fathered 9 new cubs before moving on to the Styx Pride, which was then ruled by Scar after the death of his brother, Tyson. Scar could not withstand the strength of the 2 attacking males. He chose to flee, leaving the lionesses behind. The roller coaster lions easily took over the pride, killing all existing cubs that were sired by the previous rulers. This ensured their dominance and guaranteed their own bloodline. Unfortunately, in June 2007, tragedy struck again when one of the brothers was killed by a crocodile during a horrific attack near the Londolozi River. Only one roller coaster lion remained. His story highlights that no matter how powerful or skilled lions are, nature's challenges ultimately weaken them, revealing the harsh and unforgiving reality of the wild. The last surviving roller coaster male continued to rule both the Sparta and Styx prides, even into his old age. But the loss of his brother greatly impacted him, both mentally and physically. Without a coalition to back him, he began to struggle for survival. In mid-2008, during this time of despair, a young lion from the Tsalala Pride named Solo ventured into Sparta. Soon after, he encountered the aging roller coaster male. Solo was young, ambitious, and strong, a direct threat to the old king. Yet, instead of conflict, the aging lion accepted him, recognizing the need for a younger ally to defend against rival coalitions. Many observers describe this unusual partnership as a form of adoption. This bold decision proved crucial in extending the roller coaster male's reign. The young lion provided food, support, and protection for the pride, hunting buffalo and caring for the lionesses and cubs. Together, they held on to dominance a little longer. But by May 2009, the expansion of the Mapogo coalition threatened everything. Kinky Tail and Mr. T, believed to be descendants of the roller coaster lions, led a terrifying onslaught. Despite resistance, the old male was eventually overwhelmed. The lionesses tried to help, but could not stop the Mapogo's rampage. The roller coaster male fled, barely escaping with his life, while Mr. T and Kinky Tail chased him down. He lost control of the Sparta and Styx prides, the last 2 prides under his rule. From then on, he was seen wandering alone, beaten and aged, living like a weary old warrior stripped of his crown. Once a mighty king, he was now reduced to a ghost of his former self, roaming in despair. His decline filled people's hearts with sorrow. Despite his resistance and refusal to surrender, his frail, emaciated body revealed the toll of years of hardship. Finally, in January 2010, his life ended. His death marked a turning point in the history of lions in Sabi Sand. The dynamics of power shifted drastically, paving the way for the rise of new coalitions, including the breakaway Sparta Pride, which would shape the region's future. Meanwhile, the fate of Solo, the young lion from the Tsalala Pride, raised pressing questions. At about 5 years old at the time, would he assume dominance in the Sparta Pride, or would he form a new coalition with younger males to return later and challenge for power? These uncertainties add suspense to the saga of Lion Wars, where the fates of prides and coalitions unfold in the mysterious wilderness of Africa.